The race to field the world's first sixth-generation fighter is on, with no less than 9 programs currently undergoing development all around the world. But who will be the first to the finish line? And which sixth-gen aircraft will come out on top? But first, what makes a sixth-generation fighter, well, sixth generation? There's no hard and fast list of requirements for an aircraft to be considered sixth-gen. However, the many ongoing programs to develop them all have a high degree of similarities. A mark of next-gen aircraft, however, will be much bigger brains than any aircraft before it. Once upon a time, pilots took to the sky with nothing but machine guns bolted onto their wings and a pair of big, hairy danglers. However, the aircraft of tomorrow are going to be some of the smartest machines mankind has ever put into the sky. Unless you're Russia, a modern military relies on information to achieve dominance on the battlefield. Next-generation aircraft will need to process and communicate a truly staggering amount of information being fed to it from its onboard sensors and those of nearby and even far-away friendly platforms. AI assistance to handle this avalanche of information will be critical, as well as the ability to achieve data fusion, or the capability of fusing data from numerous different sources together into one coherent picture for the pilot. Sixth-gen fighters will also need to be able to handle very high-capacity military networking, such as America's new Link 22. A sixth-gen aircraft will also need to come with the capability of being optionally manned. Are you a fan of the Terminator franchise? Then good news, because at least 9 countries around the world are working to make that future a reality with the ability for sixth-gen aircraft to be controlled by AIs. While not all sixth-gen programs are pursuing the use of drone wingmen, a sixth-gen fighter should be capable of flying a mission solo or by remote control, alternatively by following the lead of a human fighter flying in the lead. Next-generation fighters will also need to have next-generation pilot aircraft integration. This means getting rid of current analog or digital displays and replacing them with virtual cockpits that are projected onto a display inside of the helmet. Much like the F-35's ability to give its pilot 360-degree vision even through his own cockpit, a sixth-generation aircraft will basically feel like flying an invisible aircraft, with the pilot using augmented reality to see through his aircraft's sensors directly. Stealth will naturally be a necessary requirement for a sixth-gen fighter. With air defense weapons becoming ever more capable, there's no room in the future for unstealthy aircraft. This is the whole reason behind Congress's push to retire the A-10 Warthog. Sixth-gen fighters should, at a minimum, have the ability to greatly delay an enemy's weapons lock, meaning their stealth will need to defeat high-frequency radar. However, some programs like America's NGAD program are looking at fielding a sixth-gen fighter capable of defeating even low-frequency radar, much like the B-2 bomber and its successor, the B-21 Raider. This will make them true stealth fighters, not merely low observable. Sixth-generation fighters will need to have variable cycle engines, also known as adaptive cycle engines. These engines can change how they operate based on current flight conditions in order to maximize efficiency. One example is an engine that can switch from increased fuel efficiency to increased power in a pinch, making the future a flexible one that should increase overall efficiency of the next-gen aircraft. Without a doubt, sixth-generation aircraft's biggest requirement will be the ability to target and engage enemies at even greater distances than before. That, however, is a tricky proposition, as any active form of target detection is going to give you away in return. This is why the ability to network with other assets is so critical. A sixth-generation fighter, for example, could use a disposable drone wingman to locate targets while remaining hidden itself. Lastly, not a real requirement, but something that at least some sixth-gen concepts are working on, is the employment of directed energy weapons. This includes lasers for both offense and defense, with a laser system in development that could eventually work as sort of a close-in weapon system like the naval ship's Sea-Whiz cannon. The United States already has an operational laser decoy device that reportedly can create a clone of the aircraft nearby, luring enemy missiles toward the imaginary decoy. How it works and how efficient it is, or which platforms it might be installed on, all remain classified at the moment. So, who's got a sixth-gen fighter in the works, and how realistic should we take each respective program? It might just surprise you. India, HAL AMCA. The HAL Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft is an Indian program to create a fifth-generation fighter that will eventually be upgraded to sixth-generation capabilities. The goal is to create a multi-role platform for both the Air Force and the Navy, and it's being designed by the Aeronautical Development Agency of the Defense Research and Development Organization. Once design work is completed, India expects it to enter production through a private-public joint venture. between its DRDO, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and an as-yet unnamed but Indian-owned private company. With a development cost of $2 billion, it's a massive undertaking. News of India developing a next-generation fighter might raise some skepticism, and with good reason. India is simply not known for its defense industry, because until recently it really didn't have a defense industry of any significant note. But India has been making significant investments in an attempt to kickstart a homegrown defense industry, and that hasn't always gone to plan. India's attempt at building a domestic modern battle tank didn't quite hit the mark, and it took decades to come to fruition. Building aircraft is significantly more difficult than building tanks, but India looked to turn things around with the debut of the Tejas Light Multi-Role Fighter. A triumph of its self-reliant India program, the Tejas was developed domestically and built by state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics. But upon closer inspection, the Tejas isn't nearly as domestic as some may claim. By the Indian government's own estimates, the fighter is only about 60% India, and the most important components are all foreign-sourced. Its engine is built by General Electric, and its radar and electronic warfare systems are made by Israel Aerospace Industries. What India actually accomplished was building the airframe. This has raised significant skepticism toward its AMCA program, with many wondering why India opted to go it alone instead of joining a multi-nation consortium, like many European and Asian countries. On paper, the AMCA will be a twin-engine stealth supersonic multi-role fighter. On debut, it'll be a fifth-generation aircraft with the ability to adopt sixth-generation technologies over time. But there's doubts whether India can really pull it off. For starters, this will be India's first stealth aircraft ever, meaning it'll have to catch up on 50 years of American stealth development. It's at least designed to be stealthy, with body-conformal antenna, serpentine ducts to conceal engine fan blades, internal weapons bays, and other physical features to achieve a lower radar return. But American stealth aircraft also rely on radar-absorbent materials and special coatings, technology that the US has guarded very jealously, even to the point of jailing the original designer of the B-2 bomber for leaking some secrets about the super-capable aircraft. As of 2022, India was still working on the full radar avoidance capabilities of its fighter. Stealth, however, is also in the manufacturing process. The Su-57, for instance, famously features very large gaps in its body panels, which increase its radar return. This is because Russian manufacturing capabilities are not advanced enough to replicate the incredibly tight tolerances of American aircraft. With India having a nascent aerospace industry, it's unlikely to match even the success of the Su-57, meaning the AMCA is unlikely to ever be a sixth-generation aircraft, but perhaps over time may gain fifth-generation capabilities. However, India is probably okay with taking the L on this one in exchange for growing its defense industry. With a huge population of talented engineers, India may be looking to the future as it invests in growing the experience and knowledge of domestic firms. One can only hope that they don't find themselves going to war against an ever-increasingly capable Chinese Air Force in the meantime, a very real possibility for India in the near future. Japan, Mitsubishi FX. Plans for Japan's sixth-generation fighter began all the way back in 1997, after the U.S. Congress banned the sale and the export of the F-22 Raptor in order to safeguard its technology. With plans to purchase American F-35 fifth-generation fighters, Japan was looking ahead and past the limitations of the F-35. Namely, this would be a relative lack of payload, as the F-35 is very limited on how many long-range air-to-air missiles it can carry. Currently, all models can carry only 4 AIM-120C-sized missiles internally to preserve its stealth, although a planned expansion of its weapons bay, named Sidekick, is already underway for the Air Force and the Navy models, allowing for 2 additional missiles. Unlike India, though, Japan recognizes it's not quite ready to go it alone. While Japan's defense industry is much more mature than India's, it still lacks significant experience with aircraft, with the last domestically produced fighter being the Mitsubishi F-2, which is basically just an F-16 variant and built with help from the United States. To test whether Japan was able to produce a new generation fighter on its own, it launched the X-2 program, a prototype fighter meant to test if Japan had the capability to achieve next-generation capabilities all on its own. Retired after only 34 flights, the X-2 proved decisively that Japan lacked the technical expertise to go it alone. Luckily, Japan has some real world-class friends who, unlike India, are very open to work together on very sensitive technology. Sorry, India, but you spent too much time trying to play both sides against the middle. In 2017, Japan and the UK penned an agreement to begin exploring the possibility of co-developing a fighter jet. Japan also sent out proposals to the US, with Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and British BAE Systems all signaling their interest. Boeing initially offered to upgrade an F-15, and BAE offered their existing Eurofighter Typhoon. However, both proposals missed the mark entirely. The Japanese military wasn't looking for updated old tech or just old tech, period. It wanted something which would allow to secure air dominance in Asia for the future. Lockheed Martin proposed a brand new aircraft, a hybrid of its F-22 and F-35 fighters. It also offered to allow Japan to do the majority of the work in developing and producing the aircraft, which was of interest to Japanese leadership looking to expand the expertise and experience of its domestic arms industry. However, ultimately, Japan feared the US would simply block the sale of any design that was based off the F-22, and the proposal was rejected. It was also estimated that this hybrid fighter would cost as much as $170 million per aircraft, which should make any taxpayer weak in the knees. Except wait till you find out what some 6th-gen aircraft from other programs might end up costing. In February of 2019, Japan announced that while it would collaborate with foreign defense contractors, domestic industries would do most of the development and production. This ruled out building any other nation's fighter under license or purchasing them directly. Estimated to take 15 years to complete, Japan's future fighter program is expected to take flight by mid-2030. While Japanese industry is taking the lead in developing this new fighter, the country is seeking technical assistance from American, British, and Italian firms, and looking to purchase engines from Rolls-Royce, as the nation does not have a good domestic alternative. Engine design is notoriously difficult, and only a few nations in the world can create efficient and reliable high-performance engines. Unlike India's program, Japan is increasingly looking like it'll be able to create a truly stealth aircraft. Testing's been underway on various radar-absorbent materials and metamaterials, while a specialized coating for the engine inlets have been developed and is said to reduce their radar emissions by half. The FX will also take advantage of AI and fly with drone wingmen, with their development taking place alongside the FX itself. The biggest hurdle to the FX, though, is Japan's push to have the plane mostly domestically produced and developed. The US and Japan, while close allies, came to loggerheads over development with the aircraft, with the US emphasizing that operational concepts and capability requirements be the basis for its acquisition, while Japan prioritized the development of technology and its industrial base. This is understandable, as Japan's looking to the FX program as an opportunity to improve its domestic industries, while the US already has that capability and is looking strictly at the performance of the aircraft itself. Russia, MiG-41. Russia's entry into the 6th-gen scramble was announced all the way back in 2018, when people still took the Russian Federation seriously. The MiG-41 is being designed to replace the MiG-31 long-range interceptor, an aircraft that was a real beast for its time. Even if it couldn't shoot down the aircraft it was specifically designed to shoot down, the SR-71. With a cruising speed of Mach 2.3 and capable almost of reaching Mach 3, the MiG-31 was meant to fly directly at American bombers and shoot them down before they could get close to their targets. Never mind the small problem of escorting F-15s, F-16s, and F-18 fighters, who might have had something to say about the matter and were packed with far better avionics and long-range weapons. Even if its avionics and weapons were behind those in the West, the MiG-31 was at least very fast, and the MiG-41 is looking to improve on that speed, which is a strange direction to take a 6th-generation aircraft in. Current 5th-gen fighters like the F-35 and the F-22 are limited to only short supersonic sprints because the friction caused by contact with the air will actually degrade their all-important radar-absorbent coatings. Then there's the fact that by moving at supersonic speeds, it means you're creating a significant thermal signature easily tracked by modern infrared search and track systems. But Russia, the same country that's currently fielding T-52s in modern combat, has apparently solved both those problems, because the MiG-41 is quoted as being able to fly at Mach 4, and that's just its cruising speed. The plane will also operate well above the envelope of traditional aircraft, reaching to the very upper limits of the atmosphere, where even the SR-71 couldn't fly. It'll do all this while remaining invisible to enemy radar and having the ability to shoot down everything from bombers to hypersonic missiles. Listen, we're not going to waste your time or our time with this garbage. Russia is just that kid at the playground that used to make up stories to try to top everyone else. The Johnny One Better. Because every story you told, he had one better. Let's be clear, no nation currently fielding 1950s tanks in combat is going to create a 6th-generation fighter. The West bought that hype before, and then the Ukraine war proved that Russia is a clown factory. To be fair, Russia's created some world-class weapons. It's just that they only work about 40% of the time, per Western intelligence, which reports that Russia's most advanced missiles are suffering on average a 60% failure rate. but a nation that has yet to build more than a dozen fifth-generation fighters, none of which are combat operational, and is under the most severe sanctions in modern history, is not going to build a toaster, let alone the most advanced fighter jet in human history. It's awfully bold of Russia to assume it'll be a country in 2030, but assuming that its claims are true, that's when you can expect the MiG-41 to be bombing civilians, or more likely getting shot down by friendly air defenses. Europe – Future Combat Air System. Turning the show from pure fiction back to non-fiction, the Future Combat Air System is a joint project between Germany, Spain, and Dassault, with various subcontractors from all three partners. Development began all the way back in 2017 when Germany and Spain tasked Airbus with developing a proposal for a sixth-gen fighter. This fighter would have all the components traditionally associated with the next generation of combat aircraft: sensor fusion, ability to fly manned or unmanned, drone wingmen, and possibly the addition of next-generation weapons such as lasers. By 2019, Spain had joined the program, and in 2023, Belgium became an official observer, expressing interest in possibly purchasing it once complete. The program is still under the first stage of development, though a mock-up was revealed at a French airshow. Renderings released since then show a slim aircraft that resembles an F-22 that's gone on a diet. While Europe has no experience building stealth aircraft, they do have a robust aerospace industry that is amongst the best in the world. The real question is if the European effort will be able to master the material science behind advanced stealth, something that the US has spent decades learning to make efficient and economical. While unlikely to produce an aircraft that's a true competitor to the American sixth-gen programs, with experience, Europe has everything it needs to become a mature player in the next-generation market. Europe. Tempest. Spearheaded by the UK, the Tempest project is another European effort to build a sixth-generation fighter. This time, the players are the UK, Italy, and Sweden, with the possibility of Japan joining the effort depending on the success of their domestic sixth-gen fighter. Leading the charge is BAE Systems, Europe's largest defense contractor and a mature developer of advanced aircraft. Rolls-Royce is set to develop the engines, and Leonardo is working on the aircraft's electronics and avionics. It's a dream team lineup of European heavy-hitter defense contractors and likely to be the continent's best sixth-gen effort. Like other sixth-gen aircraft, the Tempest will have the option of flying manned or unmanned, with the ability to conduct air-to-air or air-to-ground missions. But that's not all, because while flying a combat mission, the aircraft will have the capability to simultaneously conduct surveillance, recon, and attack an enemy's own systems via electronic warfare suites. It'll achieve this by utilizing deep learning AI, making the aircraft better at its job with every successful combat mission. The aircraft will be designed with modularity in mind, allowing it to easily be adapted to various mission sets. This is probably setting off alarm bells in the minds of American viewers who are acquainted with the US's own efforts at modularity, namely the disaster known as the Littoral Combat Ship. Tens of billions of dollars later, America learned that the dream of modularity is a tricky one. But if Europe can master it, it'll have a true jack-of-all-trades on its hands. The plane will utilize delta wings with vertical stabilizers pointed outwards to reduce their radar signature. It'll be projected to fly alongside drone swarms while directing their actions and utilize directed energy weapons on the offense and possibly even defense. The Tempest will also have cooperative engagement capabilities, a hallmark of American aircraft and one that Europe has been quickly adding to their own militaries. This will allow the Tempest to engage targets spotted by other platforms or guide weapons from other platforms to targets the Tempest is observing. The key capability for the aircraft will be man-machine teaming. An advanced artificial intelligence will utilize sensors in the pilot's helmet to monitor his or her physical or mental state. Then, it'll use that information to know when to automatically take over certain tasks as the pilot becomes increasingly stressed, such as guiding a weapon to a target as the pilot evades an incoming threat. The AI will also gatekeep information, prioritizing what's important and working to keep the pilot from being overloaded. The aircraft's expected to have its maiden flight by 2025 as a testbed platform, after which it'll have 10 years of development before entering service by 2035, making it an ambitious but standard development cycle for advanced aircraft. JXX, China. China is one of only 3 nations to develop a 5th-generation fighter and one of only 2 to field them in numbers suitable for combat operations. China's entry into the 6th-gen game, however, is surprisingly not guaranteed, or at least not guaranteed to be as impactful as the nation once hoped. There's practically nothing known about China's next-generation stealth fighter, though a published mock-up shows a diamond-shaped aircraft with no vertical tail. This drew immediate comparison to Americans' next-generation designs, and while China's renowned for stealing or copycatting designs. In this case, the configuration simply makes sense. Like other 6th-gen aircraft, the Chinese version is predicted to utilize drone wingmen and to fly with the aid of artificial intelligence. But this is where the entire effort hits a serious snag. In 2022, President Biden limited the sale of advanced computer chips to China, and right now he's considering even more export controls to further cut China off from the global chip market. Japan and the Netherlands have joined in the effort, all working to limit China's capability to build advanced artificial intelligence technology. This would hamper the entire Chinese tech sector, but specifically its ability to develop and quickly adopt new advanced tech. The follow-on effects will have an impact on China's 6th-gen fighter program, limiting the use of AI in both the operational model and its very development. China will also have to overcome deficiencies in its 5th-generation fighter, the J-20, to build a true 6th-gen airframe. Notably, China's manufacturing capabilities lag behind the West, and the J-20 is not truly a stealthy aircraft, being more of a low-observable platform. The Chinese aerospace industry suffers from a major weakness: it's extremely inexperienced. To date, its successes have been largely based on its ability to steal Western secrets or copy Russian designs. Without the ability to innovate independently, China will never field a truly world-class aircraft. United States, NGAD, and F/A-XX. The US is working on not one, but two 6th-generation aircraft. And unlike every other nation on the list, one of them has already been flying for 2 years. The announcement shocked the world as the US revealed that just over a year after development began, its next-generation air dominance platform was already flying. This is due to brand new rapid prototyping techniques, as well as digital engineering tools that allow for fast, extremely accurate simulation of aircraft components in a virtual setting. This isn't to say the aircraft that took to the skies in 2020 was a fully operational model. Rather, it was merely a prototype that likely only had a few pieces of technology on board that the NGAD program will ultimately field. But it's still a significant achievement and a sign of the times to come. Unlike previous air dominance fighters, the NGAD program is expected to never truly end. Rather, the aircraft will continue to see evolutions as technology becomes available. And thanks to rapid prototyping technology, newer versions of the aircraft will be able to quickly join the operational fleet. The aircraft will also not be a fighter in the traditional sense, as it'll feature no vertical tail surfaces and not be very maneuverable. The focus here is on stealth, speed, and the ability to hit first from very far away, rather than engaging in close-quarters dogfights. In this regard, the NGAD is well poised to succeed. The F-22's only losses in simulated combat against US and Allied aircraft happened when the Raptor was forced to start the fight at close range, an unrealistic scenario that neutralizes the Raptor's ability to see first and shoot first. Eurofighter pilots have bragged publicly about earning Raptor kills, but they don't like to talk about how the entire exercise was specifically cheated in their favor. A hallmark of the NGAD will be the ability to fly alongside of the 6 unmanned drones named Combat Collaborative Aircraft. These drones are also already under development, and they'll be controlled directly by the NGAD mothership. They'll take on many of the tasks that would endanger a stealth aircraft, things like electronic warfare and active sensing. They'll also carry their own weapons to assist the NGAD platform, and could be used as sacrificial lambs to protect the mothership. The US Air Force does not mess around when it comes to its aircraft, and it's made very clear that the NGAD has one specific mission: to penetrate the most advanced air defenses in the world and survive. With a possible war against China on the horizon, the NGAD is being designed to fly into the teeth of enemy air defenses and shoot down their aircraft before they can threaten friendly platforms. As the old saying goes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. The NGAD is here to deliver that first punch. Probably packed to the gills with stolen UFO technology, the US has kept the NGAD's capabilities very close to its chest. One of the only things we know is that it's being designed to fly in the most dangerous airspace in the world and win the fight there. Next-generation energy weapons and brand new stealth materials are rumored to be part of the package, and it's shaping up to be one hell of an expensive package. If you were one of the millions of Americans to groan at the $80 million price tag of the F-35, then hold on to something and steady yourself for what comes next, because the NGAD could end up costing as much as $300 million per platform. You might be wondering if the US Air Force has taken over the US Navy's attempts to destroy America by bankrupting it financially, and you might not be too far off that mark. But the key to understanding this massive price tag is that the aircraft is only expected to be purchased in small numbers, about 200 or so to replace the F-22 fleet. The real punch of the NGAD program will come from the thousands of expendable drone wingmen designed to be cheap and cost-effective to lose in combat. The US military learned its lesson from the F-35 program, and instead of trying to build one aircraft that can fit every service needs, the Navy's pursuing its own sixth-generation program. The F/A-XX will inevitably borrow a bunch of technology from the NGAD and have much of the same capabilities with the standard Navy requirements of a reinforced body and landing gear for carrier landings and takeoffs. However, the Navy would like an aircraft with a longer range than the NGAD might have, and it needs to be operational by 2030 when its Super Hornets reach the operational limit of their airframes. Much like the NGAD, the Navy's F/A-XX is likely to feature a tailless design for improved stealth, favoring stealth over maneuverability. Of all the nations on the list, the US is the best set to field an operational 6th-gen aircraft and to do it much sooner than its rival programs. America hates being second best in the skies as badly as it hates walkable city infrastructure, so expect the NGAD and F/A-XX to be truly fearsome combat platforms. Now go check out why America is retiring its #1 anti-balloon platform with why US retiring F-22 Raptor is a good thing, or click this other video instead.